Hey, how are you? And today I'm going to be reviewing a 2024 Blumhouse movie called Imaginary. Imagine? Do you love it? Do I love it? Wait and see. Now, today, Imaginary is a fantastic horror film. Is what I would say if I was a dumb, whiny, complainy little baby. Seriously, guys, this movie is hot garbage, man. Hot garbage. Hot garbage. Honestly, this is one of the most generic movies I've ever seen, man. The movie actually was less than I anticipated it to be honest. I feel like this is like 100 other like generic horror movies just mashed into one. Of course, the movie starts out with a glimpse into the past as we see a child, I guess, running from her imaginary friend. We don't really know what's happening yet, of course. But then we fast forward to the future and we meet our couple, our main couple in the movie, who is the dad and the new stepmom. Man, the dad, what a pointless character this guy turns out to be. First of all, I think he's an American guy, but he's putting on a British accent. An awful British accent. If you've ever seen Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves sounds like fucking Shakespeare in comparison to this guy. I'm not even joking, man. This guy has the worst imitated British accent I have ever seen in my life. He forgets that he's doing it half the time. Half the time he's there for like the 10 minutes that he's in the movie, he's just doing his regular accent. I don't know why they included to put that into the story, but whatever. It doesn't add anything to the story, but I guess they thought it was going to make it distinctive or something. And then we have the stepmom in the movie who the fake British dad has two daughters, a teenager who's always just, she's the typical teenager in one of these horror movies. She's sitting there grumpy all the time. She's sighing. She's moody. It's like, I was a teenager once, and I was not like this. I don't know where Hollywood gets this idea that like every teenage girl is just angsty. I wasn't a teenage girl, but. And then they have the younger daughter as well. I guess the stepmom and the youngest daughter would be like kind of the main characters in this story, I suppose. And then we have our old neighbor lady, who's basically just the exposition machine for the movie. There's a couple of other neighbors too, like the teenage boy who's just kind of, I don't know if he's supposed to be comic relief, but he is not funny at all. So this starts out in typical generic horror movie fashion with the family moving to a new house, a new location, which is later we find out the stepmom's old house from when she was a kid, but that'll play more back into it later. The mom is having bad nightmares about a big spider dude thing chasing her, and they figure somehow moving to a new house or moving to her childhood house is going to stop the nightmares. And so they move, and stepmom is a children's book illustrator, and she's making a character called something spider millipede something or other. It doesn't really matter. And then the youngest daughter, she's just kind of has like a big imagination, and she is, being a kid, having imaginary friends. She's like doing different things with her imaginary friend, talking to him. The parents think it's all cute at first, blah blah blah, and then she starts making a list, like a checklist of things that she needs to find for a scavenger hunt. A scavenger hunt, that's the word I was looking for. I know I'm kind of like keep on going on these tangents about the characters, but I guess I could say the movie basically is about imaginary friends, and uh, it's showcased as a stuffed bear that the daughter finds in the creepy ass basement of their house. Like, again, these generic horror movies always have to have a creepy basement. I don't know where, I don't know why every one of them has to be like this, but it is what it is. And I also failed to mention, man, this movie has three writers, man. What were these guys doing? Like what were these guys doing? Three writers. I can only hope that it was the writer's strike. Otherwise, I don't know what those guys were doing. Yeah. So the daughter finds a stuffed bear in the basement of the house. Did I say attic before? In a house that they just moved into. No one ever fixes their basements up in these houses. They just have it like dingy and dark and weird as fuck for whatever reason in every one of them. So anyway, she finds the stuffed bear behind like this like secret door in the basement, and she starts palling around to it. The bear is the only character that I remember the name of, and that's Chauncey, and that's because they say this bear's name like 3,000 times throughout the movie. So yeah, the daughter's talking to Chauncey. She says Chauncey's getting me to do a scavenger hunt list, and she's finding all this stuff. And then it gets a little bit weird, just a smidgen, just a little bit. The list starts to say you have to do something that hurts. So the daughter takes this as she's gonna pull a piece of the fence off, like a part of the wood of the fence with a nail coming out of it. And she's going to slam her hand on it. And hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, shit, not hopefully, but I mean, may count towards something that hurts her to like add to the scavenger list. And I just want to say this, all of this stuff that's happening in the movie is like most of the movie, man. Like the plot here is like paper thin. There's not really much of any jump scares. This fucking bear like sitting around in the house, not doing jack shit. Like he's just sitting there. Sometimes he's like hiding under a sheet. The bear doesn't look scary. The eyes are kind of weird, but it's not scary. And the bear doesn't even like fucking kill anyone or anything. It's just there like creating false jump scares with like loud stabbing noises and stuff like this. You know, the most generic shit you've ever seen in your life. This makes up like 85% of this movie, man. At least that's and then in the last like 10 minutes of the movie, it feels like a movie. Like that's when it starts to feel like a movie. And like literally, I am not joking. Like in the last 10 minutes of this shit, it feels kind of like a movie, and it feels kind of like it has some kind of identity a little bit, just because they change to like a new setting. They're in new surroundings. They're in imaginary land. Spoilers. I'm not joking, you guys. For like the first like 85% of this movie, it's just like the most generic, non-scary, like snore fest of a movie, man. Blumhouse, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Yeah, guys, I would not recommend this movie. Oh, I do want to mention the old lady. Like I said, she is like the exposition dumper on her. She just like gives all the backstory. Like the stepmom, she knows everything about her when she was a kid. When the stepmom was a little girl, the old lady knows everything about her because it's her old neighbor who is now her neighbor again, you know, because they moved back into her childhood house. Yeah, she just knows every piece of history about like the stepmom. She knows like the last time she took a dump. She knows like what she ate last, and you know, everything about her, even stuff that the stepmom does not remember about her childhood and things like that, and her father and this and that. So she comes along for the ride in the last 10 minutes of the movie to imaginary land. And I gotta say, man, the old woman, she made some acting choices in this one, boy. Most of their performances are just wooden and stale. I gotta say, the little girl is like the best actor in the movie, man. I'm not even kidding. The little girl is actually somewhat believable as like to who she's playing in the movie. The rest of them are just like, you might as well have like this book, like just standing there like reciting lines, like a microphone coming out of this book just saying the lines in like the most deadpan way. Like that's how the actors are in this movie. It's like really bad. It's not like The Room levels of bad, but it's just bad in a different way to where it's like they're just so stiff and like they don't seem like they're having a good time, kind of. But the old lady makes some weird acting choices. She's like, the first time you see her, you're like, kind of like, what is that? What is she just being weird to kind of like make us feel like this movie has some kind of intrigue, or like, what is that? And then to where she shows up again, like I said, toward like the last 10 minutes of the movie, and she makes some like she just goes like totally hammy with her acting in the last like when they're in the imaginary place. And that's the one time in the movie that I laughed, is when spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen this already. Like, I wouldn't see it anyway if I were you, but spoilers. The old lady gets grabbed by the bear and gets dragged through a door, and that's the only time I laughed in the movie. Everyone else in my screening was like completely silent the whole movie, and that's only the one time. I was the only person laughing at this point, and I was the only person that laughed in general as far as I heard. But yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention, when they go into the imaginary land, it's because this imaginary friend is kind of like it's not really explained like very well. It's kind of like I don't know if it's a demon or if it's a bad energy, but this bad energy has taken over this stuffed bear, and it tries to lure kids into this imaginary land that it resides in, and it like traps them there forever. So that's what this imaginary land is in the last 10 minutes. Which again, like I said earlier, that's like the best part of the movie, just because of like visually it's like kind of unique, and it's like the only time in this movie that it doesn't feel like 1,000 other horror movies you've seen. So yeah, this thing, whatever it is, this imaginary thingy, which kind of shows up in the background sometimes. I don't think you get a super clear look at it. It's always like, kind of blurred out with the depth of field throughout the movie. But it's kind of like this gray dude looking thing. I don't really know what. But then it also kind of turns into a spider kind of thing at some stages. You don't really, like I said, and then there's also like a weird, like big lumbering kind of bear creature as well, with big sharp teeth. Oh, one thing I will say, one positive that I can say about this movie is that I think they use some practical effects. I think they may have used some animatronics or some puppetry in those creatures. I do think they might have been enhanced with CGI, of course, but the fact that I think they actually did some puppetry and some animatronics in this, that's one admirable thing about this. More modern horror movies should do that. More modern movies in general should do that, and not totally like erase practical effects. But oh, and another kind of thing that I myself kind of liked about the movie was some of the soundtrack. It kind of has like this slow kind of lumbering, almost industrial feel to it at times, but it's very like subtle and like in the background. In a lot of, in most of the movie, you can kind of hear little sounds. But then again, I was thinking to myself sometimes, I'm like, is that the theater next door? Am I hearing the music from that? Is that the movie that I'm watching? Sometimes I got genuinely confused. But again, I won't knock the movie for that. If that was the soundtrack for Imaginary, I kind of liked it sometimes. Like, it's nothing like special, or it's nothing like groundbreaking, but it's just something that I took notice of while I was viewing the movie. But yeah, besides that, guys, this is like the most generic of generic you've ever seen. It is hot garbage, as I said earlier. Garbage. Blumhouse, you really have to step your game up, guys. What is this? Honestly, a stuffed bear walking around as a, and you're trying to make this shit scary, and it's just not. Um, I doubt that even like a young kid would be scared by this movie, to be honest. There's no blood in the movie. There's no gore. Nobody gets killed. A couple people get burnt. Like the stepmom gets burnt when she's a kid, and then but it doesn't even. I don't think it shows that. And then the stepdaughter, the younger stepdaughter, she also has a burn mark on her arm, but it doesn't show that happening either. But yeah, guys, this is not good. This movie's not good. I would not recommend it. Do not waste your hard-earned money on this, man. Blumhouse, you got to do better. You really, really got to do better. Blumhouse, 3 writers, I'm looking at you. Maybe the Hollywood strike thing had something to do with it. But if not, step your fucking game up, man. This was shit. Hope you enjoyed that. Subscribe for more.